Hello 8th graders, this is an IXL support video. Specifically, we're taking a look at Y.5, the one called graph a line using slope. So our job here, now that we've practiced slope a bunch, now we're going to put it to work. We need to actually be able to graph some lines using this idea of slope. And what they're going to do here is they're going to tell you the slope, and they're also going to give you one point that it starts at. So in this case, if we're taking a look at the first problem here, they tell us graph a line that has a slope of 4 and includes the point 0.5. And it says click to select points on the graph. So if I want to graph a line, the first thing I want to know is a starting point. Where do I need to put my first point? And in this case, they actually give us the y-intercept. We'll talk about this in other assignments, but the 0 and 5 really represents the y-intercept. So I'm going to put a purple box around that little dot right there, the point 0.5. And this is really where our graph starts. So my job first is to recognize the coordinates for 0.5 are right here where you see me putting this purple line. That's going to be the first point I plot. And now I'm going to use that y-intercept, that starting point, to find other points on the graph by applying the slope. Here we know that our slope, and I'm going to put green information or a green box around that, our slope is 4. And that really means our slope is going to be 4 over 1. That's telling us the y, the rise, is going to gain 4 every time the x gets just 1 unit. So this tells me I'm literally just going to go up by 4 and travel right by 1 after that. So I'll go ahead here and use my slope, drawing in green, climb up 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm also going to climb right by 1. And this right here, this green dot I'm drawing, is going to be the second point on my line. We climbed up by 4 right there. We climbed right by 1. And so for IXL, all you're going to need to do is click a dot there on both of those points, and they're going to draw a line. If I clicked on the purple dot and I clicked on the green dot, it drew me this line right through those 2 points, and that's showing me now the linear relationship. I'll go ahead and clean up some of my notes so you can see that line a little bit better. And we see that's what happened here is we went up by 4 and right by 1, starting at a point of 0.5. Okay, for our next situation. This assignment very much for Y.5 stays the same now. It's going to have you very much find the first point, which often will be a y-intercept, but sometimes they pick a different point, and then use the slope to graph other points on that line. So here again, my same process. If we take a look, they say graph a line that has a slope of 8 and includes the point 0.1. I'm first going to point or focus on the point that I already know. I know the point 0 and 1, or the y-intercept of positive 1, is a part of this relationship. So that's my first point in purple there. And then I'm going to focus on the slope second. And the slope here, they tell me I have a slope of 8. You see that right up here, we have a slope of 8. And so if the slope is 8, that really means a slope of 8 over 1. Anytime it's a whole number, we can just put it over 1. That says we're going to climb up by 8 units every single time we get just 1 x value. So here there gains 8 y's for every 1 x. What that means on the graph is we're going to count up by 8. And I could count every single spot. But I know 1, I'm starting at 1, I'm adding 8 more for the rise. That's going to pull me up to 9. And I also need to move right by 1. So again there, I just jumped up the whole 8 units by using the number line. I know I can go from 1 to 9, and then I went right by 1. Those are the 2 data points that we need. So we're going to go ahead and click those 2 points in on IXL. That gives you a line through there. If you ever don't like that, you can go ahead and you see I can drag either point to different spots if I got them in the wrong spot. So if you click the wrong spot, just drag the dot to wherever you need. We're going to go ahead and submit that one, and then we're going to jump to the challenge zone to see a couple more difficult ones, or at least see what they look like. Okay, and maybe this one's worth looking at. So the next level of difficulty, and I think you're in good shape to do this whole assignment. We're just going to show a few more difficult ones now for those of you who got stuck towards the end. But we think you're in good shape to go do this IXL on your own. For the more difficult ones, the first thing they'll do to make it more challenging is the slope will be a ratio instead of a whole number. I actually think this makes it a little bit easier because you already know the rise and run instead of having to put it over 1, like the whole numbers you did. But we'll take a look here. This one tells us to graph a line that has a slope of 7 over 8 and includes the origin as a point. 0, 0 is really the starting point. So this is a line that's actually going to be proportional, but we'll see it works the same way. We start by plotting our point, in this case the origin at 0, 0, and then we're going to use a slope of 7 over 8. And if that slope is right here, 7 over 8, that means I'm going to rise by 7 or go up 7 every time I run and move right by 8. So I'm going to climb up by 7 just using the number line instead of counting each box. I'm going to move right by 8 to get from 0 to 8 for x. There we go. Those are the 2 dots. And as you see now, like we mentioned, because it started at 0 and 0, this is going to be the kind of straight line graph that's proportional. But we still see we can start at the origin, use the slope, the same way that we do the linear ones that are not proportional. We're going to jump ahead into the challenge zone now. Again, we think you're in a good spot to be doing all this on your own, but just in case they do something weird in the challenge zone and there's people who are stuck trying to get to 100, that's what we're showing here. All right. And it looks like they do a couple things to make the challenge zone a bit more tough. First off, they start using the language y-intercept. We'll talk about that. And they're also going to make your slopes negative and maybe even give you all 4 quadrants on the graph to figure. But same process. I want to start with a data point that I can plot on the graph. And here they tell me it's the y-intercept is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little purple box around that. The y-intercept is 3. And I'm also going to write some notes here. The y-intercept is 3, that means when the x value is 0, the y value is 3, or the line is going to cross the y-axis with a value of 3. So that's the first challenge about the challenge zone here. They start making you understand y-intercept language now, which just tells you where the line starts on the y-axis. So here, y-intercept of 3, that's right between 2. And now separately, we also need the slope. And the slope is going to be for us, give me a second to lower that. There we can see now the slope is negative 1 over 10. I'll put a green box around that. So if our slope is negative 1 over 10, that means we're going to go down by 1 every time the graph moves to the right by 10 units. Down by 1 every time the graph moves to the right by 10. So I'll go ahead back to this graph, move down 1. That brings me to 2 on the y-axis. Since I was at 0 for x, and I got to go 10 right, I just know I'll go all the way over towards 10. We could have also, it's worth noting, negative 1 over 10 is the same thing as 1 over negative 10. So I also could have actually gone up by 1 and left by 10. Could have gone up by 1 and left by 10, but that would be really like going backwards in time. But we just want to point out to you, when we do click this line onto the graph, you'll see it does go through, hey, if I had gone up by 1 and left by 10, that'd be moving backwards, but yeah, that'd find another point on the linear relationship. There's the graph we need. If you need more help as you get into the challenge zone, we're happy to help out. As always, all you need to do is send us a quick email. That email address we'll put on the screen for you is ddoherty3, and that's, as always, at bostonpublicschools.org. So there's that email address if you need help still as it starts to get a bit more challenging towards the 90s, but we think you're in great shape. Thanks for watching towards the end of the video.